Beyond.
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 Beyond?
Beyond.
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 Beyond. We get it.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to IGN Beyond, episode 555, the likes of which you have never seen before and will never see again. My name is Jonathan Dornbush. I am your host for this week. But before we begin, a quick reminder. Beyond is live every week at 3 p.m. Pacific on beyond.ign.com on Wednesdays. Make sure to come to beyond.ign.com every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific to get the show. It will be there for a full 24 hours before it gets to any other service you're used to on Thursdays. So always come there every Wednesday. Now we're going to get to the show. We have a lot to talk about this week. I'm joined by Brian Altana.
Hello.
Max Scoville.
Howdy.
And Brendan Graber.
I'm so confused. What's going on here?
Quite a lot is going on. We're going to be talking about We Happy Few, God of War talking kind of dropping off the digital sales charts on PS4, Red Dead Redemption 2. We got a brand new trailer for that, and it looks gorgeous. We're also going to talk about The Walking Dead, the final season from Telltale, and a lot more. Before we begin, though, we did want to address a little bit of the show. For those who have been watching for a long time, you may have noticed a bit of an inconsistent cast.
Where is Greg Miller? Where is Colin?
Oh, boy, I have a lot to
I
fill you
stopped
in on.
watching the show the second those boys took off, and I don't know who any of these folks are.
Are you saying I shouldn't be here right now?
No, Brandon, you're permanent now. I'm sorry. You're here.
Oh.
You're here on every show
cool.
on IGN. No, we know that you, especially fans in the Beyond group, fans on Twitter, everywhere, have been asking about the consistency, the inconsistent cast, and we do want you to know we're aware of that, and we are trying to figure out what makes sense for the show most consistently going forward. That matters to us, that there's a good flow to the show, a good chemistry among the cast, and we really want to make the best show for you. And to do that, it takes some experimentation.
For that, you are becoming the permanent host of the show now and forever. No, I'm just kidding.
Can I
Maybe.
cast my
I don't
vote?
know.
Now and forever.
Yeah, I vote for that guy. He's pretty cool.
I'm just,
I think
I'm
he's
just
pretty
stuck in
good.
the chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I mean,
I agree. Jonathan's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on. You guys haven't decided yet?
Who is the host of the show? I don't know. You introed
It's
the show.
Barrett
I think you
now.
did a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Barrett's not here. He's in the back somewhere.
Yeah.
But no, like I was. Let's see. I got married 2 weeks ago, and I was on a live stream last week, and then 3 weeks before that, it was a bachelor party, and Comic-Con was in there somewhere. So like, I don't know. It was just very busy for a while, but I'm not disappearing into the ether. But I think it's awesome to have you swapping in and taking over for a bit.
Well, thank you.
So without further ado, why don't you host this show?
And talk about We Happy Few. I tried to get in the rhyme in there before it was too late. Yeah, we're talking about We Happy Few. Brendan Graber, you're on the show because you reviewed We Happy Few.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, what'd you give it?
7.3.
Good.
It's good.
Good dot. I don't know what a 3 stands
Good
for.
point.
Good dot 3.
Good
What
point
is
3.
like a 3 is what is that terrible? It's good and a little bit terrible.
A little bit terrible.
Yeah,
sprinkled in.
just
Like
a
is
little
that what the
terrible in the
decimals
good.
for? Is it like Dolby surround sound?
We
Where
should
they're-
probably
the first
know.
number
Maybe.
is like the big number, and then it's like the subwoofer comes out.
People try to equate that to like school. They're like, that's a C minus. I'm like, not really.
Capital
Yeah.
G-O-O and a lowercase d.
Good.
Oh, it's a good.
I like that. So tell us about We Happy Few.
So yeah, I could tell it's been a divisive game for a lot of people. It has its share of problems. I think that's like, if you have to go back and look at the history of this game, it started out with like on the wrong foot of having this really cool E3 showcase and then going to early access with a different premise than what people thought it was going to be. Because everyone saw like the creepy masks and like the spooky vibes, like, oh, it's BioShock. This is BioShock.
Yep.
It's not BioShock. At its heart, it was supposed to be a survival crafting simulator in a really weird dystopian British place of randomized islands. And I think because of the early access, they realized from their fans that like, hey, we kind of need to pivot. People want that story. People want to know what's going on with the joy pills. Why are these people, how do these people get this? So like, I think they made a pivot, but it may have come too late. Or they decided to reuse those randomized islands as assets.
The other thing that happened was they put like a kind of a loose, non-story driven version of this out on kind of early access, and so people kind of got under the hood first. And then this is a rare occasion because it was sort of the design by committee you see with a AAA game, where like they bring in a bunch of focus groups and they're like, we want to have all these things, but also this thing and some of this stuff too. Except it was kind of open with the public, and so they were actually taking people who were playing their games feedback and implementing it, which is that's kind of bittersweet. Like I think that they again, like looking at this, it did look very BioShocky initially, and they took what was going to be, I think, very informed by like Don't Starve, and they turned it into something BioShocky. But
So for people listening that don't have any idea what this game is, what is this game? Like in a sentence, it's a first-person shooter with
Not even a shooter.
No,
First person.
more survival
Yeah,
focused.
first person survival, British crafting humor,
okay.
and drugs.
British crafting
It's-
humor.
Lots of happy drugs.
Together at last.
yeah, it's So I think the survival term is odd. I would say it's almost like a self-care simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the early access, because I wrote the guide for a lot of the early access missions, and back in early access, if you didn't like eat or drink every like 10 minutes, you'd start dying.
That's true in real life too.
It is.
Every 10 minutes.
And so I don't think a lot of people like that. So now it's more of like a buff debuff system where if you don't eat for like 30 minutes in game, you get like a slight stamina debuff. But you eat one carrot and you're good to go for another 30 minutes. So I kind of like that that approach that like, hey, let's not have this you worried about dying, because I think with that you were so focused on trying to survive that you kind of ignored everything else. Like, oh, I got to go through this trash can again.
Right. I think that's what's so fascinating about early access as just a general concept with video games, because like in some ways you show your hand too early. In other ways, you give people a version of a product that will not necessarily be indicative of the way the final version ships. And some people might like what you give them early on, and others might, sort of repel against it and say, I want something different. So do you recommend buying the final version of this? Like, I know you've been in there since you could first play this game.
Right.
Like, is this for somebody coming in blind as a product on a shelf? Should they pick this up and play it on PS4?
I mean, I don't know their wallet situation. It is $60, which I feel like is kind of on the high side. I know they got picked up by Microsoft, and like now it's like
Gearbox publishing.
Yeah, Gearbox published it. So it does have its share of problems. Not more than I would say like Fallout 4. I ran into some bugs, but like nothing game breaking for me. Like people would be sitting on the ground, or they'd be like stuck in a doorway, or they would like say the wrong thing. But like never like it got to the point where I had to like restart my game, or I had to reload it like an earlier file.
How long did it take you to sort of complete or see everything?
It is very meaty, much more than I thought it would be, because it goes across 3 different character stories, and they're kind of individual tales in this whole weird universe. I would say like the first person you play as Arthur, he's like the bulk of it, maybe like 25 to 30 hours for his story. And there's lots of side quests, and they're very intertwined. Like someone's side quest character that you meet, like he's like, a disabled guy, you need to like, save him from some bad guys. In another person's story, he's a main character of their main story quest.
Right.
And the way they intertwine that's pretty neat. And I think also like the stories they tell are very well done when they get to those points, because there's like that randomized island setup where everything's procedural, and these little towns you go to, either like the burned out village district where all the hobos live, or the nice village where all the mask wearing crazy people live. But they're all like random city streets that are just copy and pasted in different ways. And every so often you'll find either a side quest area or a main quest area. And those areas are where the actual story gets told.
Got it.
And it's kind of a slog to get through some of those.
Yeah,
some of the level variety was a little lacking then.
Yeah.
I've had that problem with the first couple hours of the game. I'm about maybe 4 or 5 in, and you get to those, you're in a lot of the randomized areas first. And there's not a lot of interest. And also because it's some of the more copy-paste stuff, it feels assets load in very slowly. There's a ton of pop, and none of it feels very original when I get to it. So I kind of just felt like I should streamline past to get to the good part. Does it take a very long time to get to a good part, or how did you feel about the progression of that first story?
Yeah, I'd say the progression was kind of off kilter. Like the very intro area you're in was handcrafted, and then like right out the gate, then it goes back to randomly generated, and even into the first like good village you get to is still randomly generated. And it wasn't until I would say like a little more than 5 hours, maybe more side quests or maybe less, that they're like, hey, you should go check out like this joy manufacturing plant. And that's when like things get a little more BioShock, where things are a little more linear. There's like people with purpose, there's notes and clues, there's environmental storytelling.
Are those sections still randomly generated?
No.
That's so interesting to me that it funnels you through randomly generated and then like sort of very determined areas.
Yeah, so like the town will be a weird layout, but there'll always be a manufacturing plant there. There'll always be a side quest here, and there'll always be a mansion here. you just never know where it's going to be in each playthrough.
How did you feel about the combat? Like in terms of I'm seeing a lot of like melee stuff that seems very bashy and stabby. I mean,
it's bashy, stabby. Yeah, as you craft, you get more like grenades or weapon types, or chemicals to take to increase your combat prowess. I think it was a nice little like loop to try and find the better stuff. Like every time you do a side quest or you find a new safe house, you find more recipes, which means digging through more junk to get better stuff.
Got it.
And you can like mod new weapons that like have like electrical attacks on them. It's still very just like smacky smack, block, block, smack. And then like if you're in town, I think one of the biggest cons that they try and push is like you have to conform in this weird society. So if you're in the nice areas, you have to take your joy pills. You have to like dress nicely or people will start to freak out. But then when I realized that like there's a very light stealth mechanic here where if you run and people are chasing you and you find a trash can, if you hide in there and people don't see you jump in, they can't find you.
Oh.
Even if there's like 20 people around the trash can, they can't find you. If they didn't see you go in, they'll never check it.
So it's like Assassin's Creed haystack logic.
Yeah.
Sitting down on a bench.
Yeah, from what I played, like the AI is not. It's not super smart, you know. It's kind of like, I mean, the whole thing is everyone else is on drugs, so their attention span is kind of like everyone's taking what the dev described as a cross between like antidepressants and roofies. So you're like, I mean, that's what your joy pills are. And they actually explain
We've all been there.
the procedural generation is supposed to be less about like, just a game mechanic and more like, oh, maybe your character isn't remembering things clearly. You know, like when in a dream when everything sort of shuffles around location-wise,
Yeah.
which is cool.
I do think it's very interesting. I did get to a point where finally my character took some of the joy, and the difference in the environment is so cool to see. And I love the aesthetic of this game. I'm really torn on it because the world and the ideas they have in terms of like referencing some Beatles songs as like main side characters and the way the prim and proper people are versus the people who aren't on joy. There's a lot of like fascinating stuff to this world. And I know that some studio, I forget who, actually already bought the movie rights to this game.
Really?
Before it came out, yeah. Like there is something to this core idea, but I keep going back and forth between like these very cool areas where it is bespoke and it matters what I do, and these other areas where it's this big open field with a bunch of buildings and I'm just running through it because I know none of it really matters.
Yeah. I definitely do think like you have to power through the randomized stuff to get into the story, and I really like what they had to say. Like there was what I thought this game was going to be about. Like I thought it was going to be about, it's the big bad government's going to make you take your pills, but like there's more depth to why they're taking this medication, why it's just this area out of all of Britain, and how like this alternate take on like post-World War II settings it's less about, wanting to be like an opioid crisis and more about wanting to forget your problems and wanting to forget what you don't want to confront in your own past. So even the main characters all have something they don't want to like come to terms with, and seeing their progression of them realizing like, oh, I did this bad thing. Like no wonder like why did I join in the first place? And then as their memory comes back, they're like, oh, I'm not such a great person after all.
The writing's also like pretty solid from what I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely it's almost bittersweet that it's like here it's a procedurally generated survival game, and everyone's like, yeah, but what about the story? And they were like, oh, I guess we'll put that in there too, because they're almost antithetical in that sense. But yeah, I mean, as far as the sort of BioShocky thing of poking around and reading notes and like digging into drawers and eating stuff out of garbage cans, like there's definitely plenty of that there.
What kind of stuff do you eat out of the garbage cans?
Like rotten carrots. You can get food poisoning really easily.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Blown up
But you
chunks.
can craft a thing that makes you throw up, so you get rid of the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can
That's
craft
one of the
sick
features
up
of-
tea.
Oh,
So you just stop being sick by throwing up.
BioShock Infinite was missing that feature. You could pretty
Sick
much
up
eat
tea.
anything and not get sick.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is that the idea of a survival mechanic or a survival game is like it walks that fine line of like, is this fun? You know, like it isn't that immediate like power fantasy thing where you're like, I'm gonna go out and kick some ass. It's more like, yes, will I starve to death or not? Like, I can get dehydrated in real life pretty easily. I mean, it's, drinking a large thing of water here, but like I don't know, in a game, it's like that's kind of babysitting. It's resource management.
No,
And also-
totally.
It also
Some
felt
people
like
are into,
the act of conformity was kind of undermined by running past everybody and jumping in a trash can for 5 minutes.
Well, also they get mad if they see you running, which is again is like, I don't know, like you can't really speed run this game. Like you got to sort of power walk it.
yeah, you can eventually get skills, I think, for 2 of the 3 characters. So
Yeah.
that it's just called the OU perk, and they just don't care.
Yeah, there's a pretty lengthy skill tree, and it's nice that some of them relate to the actual mechanics, but also to the way other characters react to you, which is really cool.
right.
Yeah.
But so 7.3, you can read Brendan's full review, and the video review is up now too, so you can check that out. I'm weirdly compelled to keep going, even though I'm not sure I've had fun playing, but I have.
It's almost like those
enjoyed-
JRPGs, like, oh, you got to play for 30 hours before it really gets good. Like, I hate
Yeah.
to use that like line, but like the beginning can be a little bit of a slog.
Yeah.
But there is a good story that I think is worth telling in there.
Cool.
So another game with a great story this year that we reviewed a little higher, God of War on PS4.
A little bit higher.
Yeah, just a little bit higher.
Which one was that?
It was the one with
drugs.
the guy.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, that one.
And the other littler guy.
And the littler guy.
boy.
Yeah. The
Yes.
BOI. So God of War, interestingly enough, on the PSN top downloads list, which the PlayStation blog publishes every month, it dropped off the top 10 downloads in July. In June, it was number 3 on that list. And in June, it was also the number 2 game on MPD, which tracks physical game sales. So it has been selling very well. MPD also told IGN for June that it was the fastest selling PlayStation exclusive ever since MPD is tracking. So the game sold phenomenally well out the gate and for the first month and a half, but at least digitally, it has disappeared off that store. I have a theory about that, but one, I want to know what you all thought about that and who hasn't bought God of War, who wanted to buy God of War yet.
Well, that's an interesting question in an industry where Grand Theft Auto 5 consistently dominates the conversation and sales charts. Every single month I go, who hasn't bought GTA 5 yet? And the answer is millions of people, and you.
And me.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know.
You should check out Grand Theft Auto 5 and the official wiki on IGN.com.
JR plays it right next to you.
I just live vicariously through him.
You really haven't? You really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got
Okay.
problems.
Man, that was reviewed on IGN like 10 years ago.
This was just like a
I'm
really
waiting
big
for the
reckoning.
remaster.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we're probably going to get one of those. On
Yeah, you'll
PlayStation
definitely get one of
5
those.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think with a game like GTA 5, there's the long tail of knowing that there's online, and it's sort of like this endless sandbox. With God of War, it is a straightforward, with some minor meandering, single-player campaign that can be defeated in X amount of hours. And maybe that, maybe we should be a little worried about that. Like, I know that we're constantly like, hey, that's not a big deal, and, single player is here to stay. And it is. It's not going away. I don't want to be one of those, like,
Single player truthers.
Yeah, somebody comes out and says, because those are my games, so that would really bum me out. But I do think that they lack the long tail of something.
I mean, yeah. Like God of War doesn't have any online components, and it doesn't have DLC. Meanwhile, GTA does, and like literally this week they put out like rocket bikes with missiles on them or whatever.
Yep.
And that game came out in 2013. So they're always kind of like, hey, here's some new stuff for this week. Here you go. I'm really curious. Like, we usually see a bump in game sales when they come out with a Game of the Year edition or like whatever, the collected edition, the overkill edition, whatever the hell they call it. There's always that one that comes out, especially for games that come out earlier in the year, like God of War did. When holiday season rolls around, they're like, here's this with the new box cover, and maybe there's some bonus thing in there. What are they going to put in for God of War if, there's what do they put in to give it a boost?
All the patches have been free. With the New Game Plus will be free from August 20th. So unless there is more content somewhere down the line that they haven't discussed.
I mean, it could just
do a
be on the
complete
disc versus updates if it's physical edition. I know there's been like Left 4 Dead had a collector's edition or a Game of the Year edition that would just like, hey, here's the update that we put in for free, but it's in the box now. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a rule book per
there really
se,
isn't.
right? Like, I guess any publisher is free to just say, hey, it's our Game of the Year edition. I mean, this will undoubtedly be nominated for Game of the Year. I think currently it's probably mine. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you guys.
I wonder if they're sitting on anything that they're gonna drop, like to be like, oh, hey, here's a short film, a documentary, like maybe it's cosmetic stuff, maybe it's here's a skin of Kratos from God of War 1 or something.
I think putting a decent marketing campaign, or at least a marketing push behind the New Game Plus thing will entice a lot of people to go back. It might give me a nudge to play through one more time. I think for people who are worried about it not really lasting for the duration of their $60, like something like GTA would, that will, effectively double your playtime with that game. So I think that's a smart thing to do. Obviously, Black Friday sales, possibly a bundle with a Pro this fall would be nice.
Yeah. I think something curious about cosmetics that they could do with the game if they want to give it somewhat of a tail like that is there were Shield DLC cosmetic skins that you could get as an exclusive from Best Buy. And it would unlock a menu that is not available in the game normally.
That's bizarre.
Unless you had those extra skins. At least we couldn't find a way to make that menu reveal itself. So they could do that if they want to extend the life of it. My thing is, too, we don't know MPD sales for July yet, so it's possible it sold well physically. It was number 2 in June, and my theory is that a lot of people who aren't tuned into gaming and IGN and sites like this and YouTube and everything, they buy digital. The people who are tuned in buy digital. People who hear buzz about this game go buy physical for their kids or for family members and things. So that could continue its tail at physical even if it drops off digitally, I think.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I have a feeling, I mean, if it was number 2 2 months ago, I think last month it'll probably be in the 5 to 10 range.
Yeah.
There's also the discoverability issue that we've talked about the PlayStation Store. Unless somebody's flipped the switch and given the marketing money the right push, whatever. If you're looking for a particular game, you got to go through that weird ass searching thing. Unless it's like right there, front and center. And it's been a few months. I mean, I wonder if they kind of pump the brakes on God of War's, marketing, or if they're holding off until it's kind of closer to holiday season.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you walk into GameStop and there's like a Kratos cutout, and he's like, God of War available now.
I would love to do like a feature on IGN, or even just a conversation on Beyond or Up at Noon or one of our other shows that sort of talks about the pluses and minuses, or best and worst parts of the 3 or 4 major digital storefronts, and what each of them can learn from each other. Because I think there's a lot of stuff that PlayStation does well, lacking in other departments. I think that like Switch has a really good job of sort of taking indie games and AAA first party games, putting them all next to each other. But then once they fall off that first page, they're almost gone forever. So discoverability is a huge issue. And as we sort of careen towards a undoubtedly all digital future eventually, again, don't shoot the messenger on that. I think that's going to be a bigger problem. So.
Yeah, these storefronts have to adapt, and they all have issues for sure.
Yep.
So it'll be fascinating to see what happens. One game you can't buy yet, physical or digital, but you can pre-order it. Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out this October, and we got a brand new gameplay trailer. So we actually got to see the game in action, learned a little bit about the gameplay itself, and Rockstar also confirmed that what you were seeing was 4K from PS4 Pro. It is confirmed to run in 4K on PS4 Pro, and that game looks stunning. There are so many little details that shocked me about this trailer. I don't know about you guys, but things in the way like the mud moves. There is so much texture and realism to just the forests and the mud and the water and everything that I'm floored by how it all looks.
Mm-hmm.
How did you all feel
They
about
did confirm this was running on a PS4 Pro.
Or excuse me, yes. Yeah, they've just confirmed that it will be able to run in 4K on PS4 Pro.
Okay, but what do we know for sure that's the footage that we saw?
I'm going to double check that. I believe.
Because I would be interested to see, which platform they pushed for that footage specifically.
Yeah. Well, they do have a partnership with Sony. So definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, when I saw GTA 5 behind closed doors a million years ago, I noticed it. I was like, oh, that's a PS3 it's running on. So they've been buddy for a long time. But yeah, this is, I believe it. Like based on what we've seen, like you look at something like God of War or Horizon, like we're at that point where you can have games like this, and those are not games that have been made from a bottomless money pit that Rockstar has because of GTA 5. Like those were made on a probably little bit of a tighter schedule, and this is what it looks like when you make the best-selling piece of media ever, and then people go, "What next?" Mm-hmm. And you make this.
I know we had like their little feature on like the top 100 little things in GTA 5. We have to have like 1,000 for this game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think what is really special about this game, the character models are awesome, the animation's really good, but the lighting and the shadow work and like the sort of the HDR sunsets and stuff that we're seeing
there
is like what really, like it's really hard to explain to people that don't really play like on HDR TV sets, but when like a really it's like there's not a lot of things that really define this generation in terms of graphics, but that's kind of one of them. Like just seeing sunlight come through or lighting that's just really strong and really prominent is so subtle and so beautiful. And I think that's really going to set the tone in this game. So much of this game is about that, it is about sunsets and sunrise and hunting and being out in the middle of nowhere. And I think it's totally nailing that. It's just an incredibly stunning video game.
It is taking all of its cues, especially to, at least in the story trailer so far, clearly from cinema, and so much that has inspired the Western genre. So to see all of that in action, I did confirm, it said on the PlayStation blog, captured entirely from in-game footage on PlayStation 4 Pro. Watch this introduction to Red Dead Redemption 2's gameplay in 4K.
Awesome.
So we are at the best part of the console life cycle.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's just got, and you nailed it, Jonathan, it's got just an incredibly filmic look,
I would argue that it's much more informed by paintings.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Like obviously it's drawing heavily from, but like you look at so many Westerns and the cinematography is great, but like the clarity and the detail and the depth, like you don't get that so much with like spaghetti Westerns and things like that.
Yeah, like the muddy, the fog rising, like that's...
Yeah, you look at some, Albert Bierstadt paintings or like the Rocky Mountain School, and it was these go out in the West and they sit up on a mountain and just paint like this stuff. Like it was, I think Luminism was the painting movement. I'm starting to get all art school here, but like this
no, you're totally right.
Yeah, there's the De Young Museum in San Francisco has a whole section devoted to like kind of effectively Wild West landscape painters, and that's one of the first things that jumped out at me when they first showed off this game is that it. Like, look at the clouds. Look at the stuff in the distance. Obviously, everything that's up front is incredible, but there's this kind of almost awe of like the sort of the scenic grandeur of the whole thing. And the way it's. I mean, obviously, it's a third-person shooter, so the way it's framed is sort of limited in that sense.
Well, there's a weird sort of natural haze over this game, and in the N64 days we called that fog, and that was a technical limitation. You couldn't see where Turok was going to jump. But nowadays that is effectively the way it's capturing the way the world looks, but also in the way a lot of sort of classic painters painted. You know, there was that kind of gloss to things. There was a sheen to that look. The way oil paint would shimmer on a canvas. I think they're nailing here, and I think that's sort of married to the cinematography that we saw in some great westerns. So all of that coming together with, you know, the fact that it's Rockstar making this like endlessly limitless open world is just nuts. It's just so cool. It's just so cool this is happening. I also I've been so beaten in the submission of being excited about this game that I'm also just on the other foot wary, so that when I saw the gameplay trailer, I could have sworn it would end with well, here's the bad news. It's getting delayed to 2019. And it's not. It's here. It's going to be here in like 2 months, which is crazy.
It's full of horse dressage.
Yep.
So it's a great trailer.
Before
Animals.
GTA came out, we'd seen nothing. We'd seen that one sort of cinematic trailer, and there's the one brief gameplay thing. And then I was working at Rev3 Games, and we had Adam Sessler basically locked in a room reviewing this. And I got to go in, and he was in the middle of, I think it's one of the heists where Franklin gets on a jet ski and has to flee the cops. And it was the first time I'd really seen the ocean in that game, and there was a running on a 360, I think.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't anything fancy. It was just that was what it was looking like at the time, and just standing there and just staring at the sheer like density of detail. And that's GTA 5. This is what, six years later, something like that. It's been a minute.
Yeah, the level both in just the gameplay and the visuals itself are stunning. There are a lot of little notes here. John Ryan, one of our wiki team members, he got to go to Rockstar and see a lot more of the game. You can see a ton of that, his impressions, conversations with him on IGN.com right now. He also was on Podcast Unlocked, our nemesis, and he discussed the game a bit there. They're good friends. So you can go listen.
McCaffrey.
It's those at NVC we got to take.
That's true. Pair.
Don't attack those children with their baby's toy.
I'll see you guys later. Me.
On an NVC.
Whip my own ass.
There's a ton more Red Dead Redemption 2 coverage on IGN, courtesy of JR and our wonderful team, so be sure to look out for all of that. Before we take a quick break, did want to touch on a little bit of news. Patrick Sutherland, the chief design officer currently at EA, has left after a very long tenure at that company. He used to sort of be the face of Battlefield, essentially, for that company, and he's really been a big proponent of so much of their evolution in the last few years. Obviously, this is a more behind-the-scenes change, and we won't know what the effects of that are, but it is a huge leadership role leaving. How do any of you think this will see a major impact to EA immediately, or do you think this will be more of a down the road?
I don't know about immediately, but this definitely is tied to some of the financial troubles that stumbles they've gone through over the last few years. On a personal note, and Max and I have no shortage of us audibly complaining about this, but the sort of, to a bigger picture, mishandling, to be blunt, about the Star Wars franchise has been cumbersome and annoying. I think that the way the brand new Star Wars game was announced at E3 was
Bizarre.
Appalling. Yeah, I'll say. Not even having a logo or anything. I wonder what this means for some of the smaller indie titles underneath their branch. I mean, EA. People look at EA and gamers in general kind of have this distaste for them. They're seen as this sort of like big entity that spits out annual franchise titles, and in many ways they do that. But they're also a fantastic collection of studios that is really good at making really gorgeous, really well polished, and really original, like independent games as well. I mean, some of the coolest smaller games have come through that label over the last few years. So I don't know what this means. I mean, it will be a big shakeup, and I don't think we'll see the immediate sort of reactions to it and ramifications right off the bat. But I do think that things will change. I don't know if they'll be for the better or for the worse, but
we'll have to wait and see. No, I think it's interesting kind of to look into that. I think it was Kotaku had a piece up on sort of Sutherland's, I guess, recent finances, and it was like he made, I think it was $43 million last year, and like 20 million of that was a bonus
to get him to stay.
Yeah, which I can't even fathom.
Yeah,
like that's such an I don't know what you do to warrant that much money, and I don't know what you do with that much money.
Yeah,
to like one guy. You know, like to be like, hey, yeah, here's like, you're gonna get a 50% bonus, which by the way is already like a
because like the
a country's income.
that desert island hypothetical is usually like, would you quit your job for $1 million? Not would you stay for 20
million.
Like, it's the kind of thing where it's just like it reaches a point of money where I just don't understand it anymore.
Yeah,
Like I'm like, okay, if you give me $1 million, the number one thing, just to do this real quick, the number one thing I would do, I think I would eat better food. I really well already, but I would eat the kind of food where I'd be like, oh, you brought in like rare cows from, I'm Wagyu beef from Japan and shit like that. I'm eating like great food all the time, travel more and stuff like that. $20 million, like what the why do you, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start.
how is that a good business move to be like, all right, this guy, he already made like $43 million, however much, $23 million this year. Man, we really want him to come back to work. Let's give him another 20. Like what? Like, and also like they did this. I think the median EA salary is like $96,000.
Yeah,
96 million.
$96 million. He was actually, they were shortchanging that dude.
Yeah, it was real rough.
No, but like $96,000 a year sounds like a ton of money. But if you're living in the Bay Area, that's not a ton. It's incredibly expensive to live here. We don't make that much.
It's crazy. $20 million, and then you know what? Your Star Wars game doesn't have a logo.
You don't have Dengar.
So that's where the money went.
You don't have Dengar.
This has all been about Dengar. Obviously, them wanting to give him that bonus. Clearly, they want to keep him to stay. It's very curious to see how this will change EA going forward. I imagine it'll leave a big shift on the corporate level. Finally, we'll get Dengar because Patrick Sutherland.
Do you want to apply?
He buys the rights to just Dengar, and he's like, "Great news, everybody! I'm making Battlefront Dengar."
Did they not put Dengar?
Only Dengar.
Didn't they put Dengar?
Oh,
in the
boy.
first
Did they?
one?
I don't remember, man.
I thought they did.
And with all of that Dengar talk, we're going to take a quick Dengar break, and we'll be back shortly.
Highway to the Dengar zone.
Yeah.
The premiere episode of Telltale's The Walking Dead's final season ends on a powerful note. It foreshadows some difficult lessons Clementine has yet to learn about what it means to grow up and lead in a post-society world. There's more exposition dialogue to wade through than I'd have liked, but it's done the job of making me interested to see how her story ends and how it comes full circle to connect back to the beginning. The season begins predictably, with Clementine and her young ward, AJ, being rescued by a group of teens and children. Elements of Lord of the Flies are present in their camp, with the kids trying to create their own hierarchy by working together to find food and survive in their own designated safe zone. This episode focuses a great deal on the parallels between Clementine and Lee, taking everything he taught her and preparing to pass it on to AJ. Throughout, it's interesting to think of AJ as the inverse of Clementine. The course of her story has seen her learning how to let go of the safe, civilized world she knew, while AJ needs to be introduced to the ways of the old world to function among those who want to build a new one. It's a powerful dynamic that often yields significant and dramatic moments between the two. Extended conversation sequences provide necessary exposition for the kids we meet, but often meander needlessly and deliver repeated information. The combination of this oversized info dump and the obligation to check in with a needless surplus of characters makes the middle of this 2-hour episode drag a bit. These are thankfully broken up by dramatic moments of combat and a handful of intense character interactions whose impact will presumably be felt in future episodes. A majority of the opportunities for choice in this episode hinge on shaping relationships with the other kids in the school. However, partly because this is the first episode, I didn't get the sense that these actions and decisions were built upon in significant ways. That left them feeling unsatisfying. The premiere sets the season up for an emotionally charged and powerful arc, but heavy exposition and character building make this episode a slow, gradual build. For more on The Walking Dead, check out the first look at the final chapter and watch Clementine and Lee react to Lee's death in Season 1.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine.
Can you play something else?
Beyond. No one else? Okay, I thought we could just
we
intro
did
the
that
middle
already.
of the show. I just like to say it.
We already did that.
It's
Beyond.
just fun. Okay, Beyond.
This is episode 555.
I wanted to
A
give
fake phone number in a movie.
our new guest, Cassidy Moser, who has joined us for the panel, a chance to say Beyond.
Beyond.
There we go.
Thank you.
That's what I was
Cassidy.
looking for.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm all right.
Thanks for joining us for Podcast Beyond episode 555.
Thank you for having me here today, Brian. It's always lovely to be here in San Francisco.
You work here, so that's good.
What nice pleasantries among coworkers.
I agree.
Cassidy, you reviewed The Walking Dead, the final season, episode 1. That is a lot to say. Is there also a subtitle?
Maybe the most mouthful I've ever had for a game review, yes.
Excuse me, Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, the final season, episode 1.
My favorite thing is saying I reviewed The Walking Dead because people are like, which one? And I'm like, oh, yeah, one of the 6 properties that's in development currently for
Yeah.
The Walking Dead.
Board game.
No, it's Telltale's. The first episode of the final season, which is the 4th season of their adventure game series.
Not
Based on-
including
Does
the-
that count the spin-off about Michonne or no?
No, that's not one of the... that's in this universe, but it does not count as a season.
Because there was also the one that was like
400
460
days,
or
yeah.
The
300
Kingdom Hearts title.
5/8 over 2 days, yeah.
100 Days of Summer or whatever, yeah.
That was the one.
Right.
Yeah. Telltale Games 400 Days of Summer. Anyway,
So yes, you reviewed it. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 6.5.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I believe on our scale it is okay. I've gotten yelled at by Dan.
Now,
Singleton.
does this mean...
perfectly in the middle of okay.
There we
Yes.
go. Now, does this mean that this entire season is garbage time, or does it mean that you reviewed an episode of something that isn't finished yet?
Oh, garbage time is not on our review rubric, Max. That is not in the.
No,
okay
that's a 1.7.
That's an internal term. We use.
garbage. Time.
It's just the 1.7.
Just the 1.7.
No, so it is good. It is good. There's a lot of good stuff in here that they set up for. The biggest issue with this is that we're reviewing an individual episode.
Right.
That's the biggest issue here. It's a decent start. It starts off with Clementine. She is still with AJ, who is the kid that you picked up in, I believe it was season 2. And he's grown up now. And actually, AJ ends up being the most interesting part of this episode. And specifically her interactions with AJ and kind of their dynamic, because this is a kid who has grown up post-Walker world, right? Like, well, not post normal world, whatever we're living in. Yes. So he doesn't know anything about like social norms or politeness or what it means to be a good person and all this because there's no need for that. So Clementine is trying to teach him these things, and meanwhile he's like, but why does it matter? And it's a very strange inverse from where her dynamic was with Lee in the original season. So it's actually really cool when they go back to that, and it's actually really well nuanced and really well done. Where this thing kind of lags is you interact with this school of kids, and they've kind of formed their own little Lord of the Flies society thing. And there's so much talking and exposition because they're setting things up and trying to kind of prep you for this new season. So that's kind of where the 6.5 comes in. It's just not, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of watching, and not a ton of extra
The
development.
Watching Dead.
I always feel like that can be a problem with these episodic games where the first game has to be exciting and snag you immediately, but also has to set up so much because they are doing these episodes, but they also develop the episodes in a way where they respond to feedback based on the few episodes.
Totally.
Yeah, I think just the way this entire video game, in quotes, has rolled out has been really interesting because The Walking Dead Season 1 was basically runner-up to Journey for IGN's Game of the Year the year it launched, because at the time there was really nothing like it, and I maintain that that's some of my favorite storytelling in a video game ever. Whether or not that translates to a fun video game, different debate entirely. Is it a game? I don't care. But it is a product in our medium, in our industry that we discussed and put alongside such greats as Journey and other things that were released that year. And I played the second season, or experienced, watched, enjoyed the second season. And then I think it started splintering off and it took too much time. So it's interesting to hear that it's still going and it's completing, but it feels like it stumbled a little bit out the gate on its first episode.
I wouldn't say it stumbled. I think it's just slow. Like,
Okay.
I think
Like
it's
a
just
walker.
slow. And if I'm having to review this as an individual thing and only look at it from that lens, like, it's slow. It's a very slow thing. It's not bad. It's not necessarily dull because I think it's pretty well done. It just takes its sweet time and it kind of reiterates information that you already have. So you're like, okay, yes,
I mean,
next thing, let's go.
To be fair, like the first episode in most TV show seasons is usually kind of a dud. You know?
Yeah,
like, I
totally.
mean, sometimes they come out the gates, guns blazing or whatever. But if there's been sort of a lapse in sort of what's going on, like pilot episodes of shows are frequently just like you're like, oh, I'm getting the idea of what this is about. It doesn't really sink its teeth in until like later on, and that's how it works.
I mean, that's like The Wire is my favorite TV show of all time, and I try to tell people to watch that show, and I'm like, just push past the pilot, which I think we do with video games a lot. We were just saying it earlier. Play through the first 5 hours and it gets really good and stuff like that.
I don't necessarily think, though, that a pilot is a very good comparison to this because this is the 4th season in.
Yeah, sure.
Usually for a
This is a
pilot of a
season
TV
premiere.
show, it's basically a proof of concept, like this is what we want. And they're a mess because they're trying to fit so many elements into one thing as a sliver to get approved for season. For this, it's the final season of this thing. They're trying to reach an emotional peak, and I think it's just kind of been a gradual build in terms of Clementine's story, and this is supposed to be the culmination of all that. And I do get the sense that a lot of the decisions and interactions you have will eventually pay off. It's just in this, it's a very small snapshot of what they have planned.
Well, and I'm curious how you feel about reviewing an episode of a game that will have 5 episodes in total for the season. I reviewed season 3 of this game, and it is always that weird thing where Telltale knows they're releasing this episodic game, but at the same time they plan ahead and release a season pass disc often.
Sure.
Where it's like, hey, you can get all the episodes right up front as they launch, so you'll immediately get them, or they then sell the complete packages after, knowing people will experience this as one whole thing.
The hardest part about it is finding ways to make the reviews different if you're the same person that does all of them throughout the season, because at a certain point you can't give away too much because you don't want to spoil things, but at the same time you can only say combat is this, and this is what the puzzles look like, and here are these characters, and I liked this part, but I can't give
that's
specifics. So it's kind of finding ways to pick up on the themes of that specific episode and maybe relating to how it's tying in with everything else is probably the best way to keep it fresh, but like that's what kind of makes it hard. Do I like it? I like reviewing games.
Right.
So either way,
I guess-
I don't mind it. It's
Do you
just
like
a show.
reviewing the first 3 hours of games? Did this feel like previewing a game more than it did like reviewing it?
No.
Because you're like, I don't know, you're playing the first chunk of something and being like, here's what I make of it. If you chop the review score off of that, would it be like?
I mean, I guess so. It's kind of like reviewing TV episodes.
I guess
like
my question for you then is sort of like, if you're like me and you lapsed on these games, like you played through the first 2 seasons, you liked them. And for the record, I played the first season episodically as it launched, which was incredibly sporadic back then. I don't know if Telltale's like cleaned up that process a little bit and hit their due dates.
They definitely have tried to more with recent seasons, yeah.
And then I
staffed
played
up, too.
I played 2 in one sitting on a flight. And it was a drastically different experience. I enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah.
Almost, even though I felt the first season was stronger than the second season, being able to sit down and just marathon through it, like which is the way, I mean, it's the way our culture consumes media now. We sit down on Netflix and we binge.
I mean, I think this opens a wider conversation because the last Hitman game was episodic. That's not a narrative game like this is. Right?
No.
So it was more of, it almost feels like here's a game, here's DLC, here's DLC, here's DLC, here's just like extra content. But the first game's really tiny, so it's kind of a strange construction anyway. And I don't know if this is the best medium to do episodes in necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually always wondered that. I think that like years from now, we might look back on this Telltale era and be like, that was weird.
Yeah.
Or we might be like, that was a great idea, and everyone does it now. You know?
It definitely feels like The Walking Dead season 1 launched this trend and this thing that people are like, oh, we need to do episodic gaming and try this approach. And you see different successes and failures. Obviously, we have Life is Strange also coming out.
Resident Evil did it.
The second
you know,
season,
like,
Resident Evil.
aforementioned Hitman did it. Like, it's interesting to see big companies have tried it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many have stuck with it besides Telltale.
I mean, it's really funny to see games be like, let's be episodic when TV's like, let's do seasons at a time so you can binge them.
I was
It's
just
kinda
going to ask that.
cross purposes.
Yeah, because I think there's a little bit of a tie-in between those two. You have like Hulu for Runaways season 2. They're going to be releasing the entire season all at once, whereas for one, they kind of rolled it out episode at a time. So I think I don't know. I guess it kind of comes down to choices and like how you like to consume it.
There's also the interesting sort of idea that when this game launched, the TV show was sort of at the pinnacle of its zeitgeist, and people were talking about it constantly, and ratings were through the roof. And that has reached obviously a saturation point where I would say only the die-hardest of fans are sticking with it. I mean, I dipped out a long time ago on the AMC's The Walking Dead. And so when I see this, my brain automatically just sort of pushes it all together. It's just sort of like, oh, well, I'm kind of over that whole world, but I feel like there's probably still cool stories to tell here,
So
or at least 5 of them, right?
That was something that I kind of struggled with a little bit too. Was like Dan Stapleton, right? We were talking about this before I posted it, and he was like, "Did you like it? Like, were there really good moments in it?" And I'm like, There were good moments, but I feel like with The Walking Dead's storytelling style, we've kind of become desensitized to a lot of it because that shock value just isn't there anymore. Like, how many heads have we seen cut off? How many arms have we seen cut off? How many people have we seen turn to zombies? All of that. So it's, and even beyond that, like all of the human interactions, like how many people have we seen do terrible things to each other in The Walking Dead? Like, it's kind of, I don't know if I'd say it's old, but I feel like it's a genre that is kind of struggling to figure out new twists on it.
I mean, and I would say that like the core sort of tenet in all of this that would even remotely keep me connected to it is Clementine.
Yeah.
Is her growth in the same way that people are like, well, this is the end of Andrew Lincoln's run on The Walking Dead. Let's see what happens to him. Like Clementine as a character who started off where she started off with Lee, who then grew up to become a mentor of her own. I remember like seeing her hold a gun the first time. It was like chilling and weird.
And you know what's
difficult.
interesting about that? So you remember that moment when she holds that gun and she's kind of cradling it.
Yeah.
So in this episode, the very opening scene shows AJ in the backseat of the car playing with a revolver like it's a toy. Like he's just like flipping it and like spinning the chamber on it and just like flipping it back and like just you hear this noise like it's really eerie, and it's like things like that I think it does really well in showing the inverse of the two.
I love that aspect that there is something like this in gaming where it can play on after 20 episodes of this game. It can inverse things and it can subvert your expectations in smart ways. But I had that similar struggle with season 3 where it's like, how many more stories can you tell in this universe that don't feel like the story you've already told?
I mean, like the adage goes, right? Like there's no new stories, there's just new ways of telling them. And in order to do that, you have to zero in on characters. And I think they've done a good job with Clementine in that regard.
Yeah.
Telltale also exists in a weird space where they don't really, I mean, they update their engine mechanics here and there, but for the most part, like they put the story first and they don't really have any crazy advancements in terms of how they tell the story. It's still pretty much like they invented a format or they popularized a format of this kind of narrative-driven adventure game.
Yeah.
And they did that with the first season of The Walking Dead before The Last of Us. And then that came through and it blew everyone away. And now it seems like the rest of the industry is kind of following suit and being like, let's really push strong narrative. And they're still like kind of over there, like, making Telltale games, and that's not, not to fault them, but like, I don't know how you get, new eyes on that.
I mean, this is kind of what happens with old directors, like James Cameron's a good example, or
don't you
Ridley,
speak ill of that man?
Ridley Scott. Yeah, I forgot you're the Avatar boy. No. No, Ridley Scott's a good example of that because what was the last Aliens movie that really blew you away? Like a lot of them have been controversial.
I don't know what I like Alien Covenant had that part where Michael Fassbender comes out and he plays the flute with Michael Fassbender.
This is the worst part of that movie. I liked a lot of the stuff in that movie.
What happens a lot of the time is you have these creators who create something and it's amazing and it's spectacular and it comes in and it changes stuff and it mixes up the game, but then they don't understand what it is about it that made it so special. And so when they continue to do that stuff, it doesn't evolve. But when you have a fan that takes it and kind of ups it and elevates it, like that's how it evolves. And so I think it's maybe a situation like that.
Yeah, and it's a weird recipe, right? Because if like you look at those games and you go, I want more gameplay, well then you have like a story-driven third-person shooter, right? Maybe you have The Last of Us or you have Days Gone. Or you look at something like Days Gone and you're like, I want more story. I think everybody's just sort of finding their right spot there.
The happy medium.
Yeah.
It felt in season 1 of The Walking Dead, you see that they clearly struggled at first to be like, do we want to be more like an old school adventure game and have a lot more puzzles in here? Or do we want to be about the characters and the story? And obviously they chose that path and have continued down it into this final culmination of what will be Clementine's story. Do you know if are you planning on reviewing the next couple episodes? Or
I definitely want to. I haven't necessarily been confirmed to. But
of course. Yeah. Whenever they release, we'll find out.
Yeah, totally.
You can read Cassidy's full review of the first episode of The Walking Dead's final season, episode 1, on IGN.com right
You
now.
got that all in one breath.
Yeah,
Well
it's a
done.
lot of words.
I'm proud of you.
Moving on, another thing that debuted this week, Spider-Man's launch trailer. Yeah, the game is not out yet, but we got the launch trailer weeks early.
Huh.
So that happened.
Did you guys watch? Oh, I don't want to watch it at all. What are you doing? Get that out of here.
Well-
No. Brian, did you watch it yet?
No.
Oh,
I,
boy,
watch
I'm
it?
sorry. This is a
Yeah.
surprise.
hey, I'm sold on this game. I'm good. Stop
don't know
showing
what
it to me.
scenes.
I
Don't-
did
You can
wanna
show it
talk
to the.
about
Okay,
that.
if you're watching this on YouTube,
You can put your hand up too.
you
and
put your
cover
hand
the
in front of the
screen.
CPU.
Yeah, just
That's
cover
what
it
we're
up.
doing.
It's the
Just look at the
optimal
floor.
Don't want to see it.
viewing
Don't look at it.
experience for a video show.
They sold me on this game. I want to play it. I want to play the Spider-Man game. Don't show me any more
What?
of it.
Wolverine?
Yeah.
No way. I'm not looking.
Professor X?
Batman's in this one.
He's in everyone. That's the surprise.
Amazing.
gets a
Luke
car?
Skywalker is in this game. It's ridiculous.
I'll get Ray out of there. Though.
Totally
no
into
Ray.
it. No, I'm sold. I'm good. Thanks.
Rocco from Rocker's Modern Life.
Rocker's Modern.
Rocker's Modern. I
That's
started
a
it.
furniture store, you madman.
It's a great store. I did want to talk about the idea of oversaturation, especially on these big games, though. Obviously, we are 3 weeks out or so from the launch of this game, and we're getting the launch trailer. I imagine this will be the last big piece of promotion for this game.
No, probably will not.
No, but the last one they'll put out to advertisers to get on TV.
Yes, totally.
In heavy rotation. But I'm curious for all of you, sort of what is that moment of oversaturation of a game? When is it too much for a game?
Depends on my interest level in it. Like with Star Wars movies, like I can see the original teaser and then I am literally good until the movie comes out. I don't want to see anything else.
I was gonna say when we start getting international cuts of Star Wars trailers and they're like, "There's 4 more seconds of Finn like waving his arm," I'm like, "Nope, don't show it to me. I don't want to see any more."
That's kind of like trailer reaction culture too. I think kind of burns me out on some of this.
Yep.
I think there should be a rule for trailers. I think there should be like an FCC enforced thing where, or like MPAA, where like you cannot make your trailer from anything but the first act of the movie. Like you can't go past the 1/3 mark, you know, and then it's just that's it. And if you can't sell your movie based on the first half hour or 45 minutes of it, then like you don't have a good movie. So what are you doing?
Let's make a law that if you're at more than 3 E3s, your game has to drop $10 for every E3 after.
That's pretty good. Yeah, no, like
By your 4th E3,
Yeah,
your game
yeah.
is $49.99. By your 5th, it's $39.99.
I mean, The Last Guardian would be free.
PlayStation Plus exclusive. No, I mean with Spider-Man, obviously it's different from a movie because it is an entire world to explore. And I know that I played at E3. Like I played. I guess I played the demo, but I kind of didn't want to. I was kind of content with just swinging around and kind of being like, "Oh, this is this is the world, this is the city. I want to see this." But like, I don't know. There's the second I start thinking about it, and I'm sort of like, not uninterested, but not excited. Like with Red Dead Redemption, like we've seen a chunk of that, and I'm like, I know that the second I pick up a controller for that, I'm gonna be like, just blown away.
I think they've done a pretty good job with the rollout of content on that thing.
Yeah.
No, Rockstar is the best at it.
Well, because
Like,
it was like teaser, screenshots, trailer, gameplay.
Yeah.
Goodbye for now.
Yep.
We'll see if there's anything else.
I mean, with Spider-Man, for me, it kind of comes down to how much do we know about it. Like, I know what Spider-Man's going to be. It's going to be a fun, well-made, tightly constructed action game. Like, and it's going to be great. But for something like Death Stranding, nobody knows what that
here's
is.
the
I actually know less about it the more I see.
Exactly.
That is a
about
different
Kojima.
story.
Yeah.
Kojima has almost like the Rockstar control over hype because he'll like trickle out like stuff and you're like, I don't know, a little bit, like it's like little bit. And then the last thing he drops is like, it shows you like a clip from the final boss fight or something. And
Yeah.
you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Is that will that be its 33 next year?
Probably.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Money.
Yeah.
I am curious, though.
Like the
so-
Domino's 30 minutes or less thing.
3 E3s or less.
It's full price. With this trailer, for those who have watched it or don't want to watch it without spoiling much, it does rely largely on footage we've already seen. The E3 trailer that focused on that raft scene is a big part of it. Some of the preview footage that we've seen.
Raphael, the Ninja Turtles in it?
Yeah, all of them are. It's New
Did
York.
we ever figure out which villain it was that showed up at the very end of it?
Still a mystery. There was a voice actor who said they thought it was one of the characters, which
Darth Maul.
it was Darth Maul.
Sure.
Which-
Why not at this point?
We'll see if that works out. But there is something about this trailer that I did want to post all of you, at least on a story level, without spoiling what happens in the trailer if you don't want to know. Miles Morales is in the trailer a lot, in both the beginning and end of the trailer, and his relationship with Spidey is heavily implied in that trailer as being key to this game, especially if this is the launch trailer. Do you think he'll be playable?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Gwen Stacy is playable, right?
Mary Jane.
Whatever.
Gwen Stacy-
Whatever love interest of the week it is.
Gwen Stacy's actually playable every time you die. It was like the Nathan Drake slow motion thing. It was, Gwen, no!
If Mary Jane is playable, then I think 100% we'll be able to play as him.
That first trailer we got, the whole sort of like helicopter chase through the city, it ends and camera pans down and it's like just shows Miles front and center. And oh, by the way, Sony has a movie about Miles Morales coming out this holiday season.
Certainly doesn't hurt.
It kind of makes sense that Sony, who's putting this game out, would maybe want to raise awareness of Miles Morales.
So there's one thing about that. Do you think you'll play him, though, as a Spider-Man? Or will he just be a
Maybe
civilian
at like
who you
the
have to
very
help
end.
out? Yeah.
He'll probably be a civilian, like kind of, all right, Peter, you go do that, and I'm going to go over here and get these guys.
I hope
That's
we
what Miles
play him as a
sounds like.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I want to
that'd
be playing as a
great.
lot of the Spider-Man when I buy the Spider-Man. I
Every
know there's
time-
some other stuff, but
Every time we talk about
Spider-Ham.
Spider-Man, I think about Kimmy Schmidt season 1, where they do for Spider-Man 2, Too Many Spider-Men.
Oh yeah.
That's a deep cut. Someone out there is
Still
going to
wonderful
appreciate
play.
that. But every
Little unknown Netflix season.
Yeah.
It's now in its fourth season or whatever.
what the Venn diagram is with our audience.
I could totally see them doing like a Last of Us kind of thing where I don't know, like Spider-Man gets hit by a truck or something. Miles is like, Peter, I'm gonna go get you some water, and then you gotta go around with a bow and arrow
Into a
and
mall.
kill the shocker. Like, I don't know.
I would love, this is so dumb, but I would love if there was an area where there was just like a bunch of PlayStation exclusive crossovers. Like Nathan Drake is climbing a wall and Spider-Man just zips up and he's like, how the did he do that?
Sir, please get down from there. You're gonna hurt yourself.
Hurting everyone else, and then he smiles at the camera and walks away. Yeah, I think they're hiding a lot about this game, which is nice, but having the launch trailer out this early, I'm wary of them showing too much more of this game. I just want to play it. I just want to know how it is. But we'll know on September 7th, so not too far away.
In the meantime, we just talked about it for a while, so
There's that game. Yeah, Spider-Man.
Well, that killed some time until Spider-Man's out. That's always good.
That's true. That's the number one way to kill time. It's
like
talk about Spider-Man.
It's like literally a lot of our job description is to be like, hey, how about that game that's we just showed at E3? When do you think that's going to come out? Is that anything going on there?
That's another 5 minutes closer to Spider-Man. Congratulations.
Oh, we did it. So what's out
Three
this week?
E3s or more, and the pizza's free.
Out this week there's quite a bit on the drop from the PlayStation blog, but one game was put on this list. I don't know who put it here specifically.
Who do you think could have put this
shouted
here?
it? I assume Cassidy. Max, what's doggone golfing?
What is doggone golfing, you ask? Well, let me tell you, it's not just someone who's outraged at golfing, the sport. It's about dogs going golfing. But they decided that wasn't enough of a silly name, so they called it doggone golfing.
Oh, they're going golfing. I thought it was like missing dogs that were golfing. Like dog gone.
It's not dog gone. Or
Like
Dog
Days
go
Gone.
golfing?
just a dog
Oh,
gone.
no.
This is a game. It's a game about golf that is played by dogs.
What about Days Gone golfing?
Days
play
Gone
that.
golf.
Ooh, I'd play
that
that
would be
minigame.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you
Motorcycle golf?
Yeah.
you hit your golf ball into a
No.
trash can, a bunch
Put the
of
dogs
things
in
come
it.
out and kill you.
Dogs are the draw here. Sit
What if
down.
you're playing the golf on the bike in Days Gone? A little bit of bike chat for you.
No, if the dog's
No?
riding the bike, then I'm in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motorcycle golf could be a good game. Anyway, it's August, so that's where. Oh, look at that! It's doggone golf. We got doggone golf, and the dogs are hitting the golf pucks.
This is a video show
You
exclusive,
sounded
so if
like
you're
a
listening to the
shoutcaster
audio.
for like 2
Yeah.
seconds
Apologies.
there.
That's about all the shoutcasting I got in me. Something pops up.
This is cute.
Yeah, no, there's a handful of like little games out this week, and I mean it's stuff that I think already exists on Steam. So if you want to get a sense of what people think of it or check it out in action, it's always sort of nice to have that. But at the same time, there's also less hype if
And what are they hitting?
It looks
I
like
get
a
it.
hockey puck.
Instead of a birdie, it's a barky. That's what they
Aw.
call it. Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, I've seen
So
it
this-
now.
yeah.
This
You
is
can stop showing
doggone-
this now.
Doggone golfing.
You're spoiling it too
Yep.
much.
Yeah.
We've
The
seen too much of this.
oversaturation.
Killing my hype for doggone golfing.
Before we end the show, after that little bit of doggone golfing talk, a couple quick questions of rapid fire and then one final surprise
Hell
for the
yeah.
audience at home. One question from Jonathan Mound. I didn't pick it just because I'm also named Jonathan. What's the future looking like for PSVR at this point? Whoa, that was telling for this audience.
I think
Max,
that-
you and I have.
Yeah.
We both own our own PSVR units.
I mean, they've been.
I bought one at launch. It's got some incredible games on it.
And they're continuing to make big releases. We're actually going to see Firewall Zero Hour, one of their first-person shooter sort of squad games soon. So they're still.
I played that at PSX, and it's really cool. From what I played, it felt like kind of a sort of almost a streamlined like Rainbow Six Siege. It's like or laser tag if you want to be reductive. It works surprisingly well, but again, that's in like controlled scenario where it's 8 PSVR setups all hooked together. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of the big budget stuff is like leaning on that multiplayer angle, and that requires you to find a bunch of people who have PSVR headsets.
It honestly
have-
reminds me. No, you want to hear?
I have a lot of thoughts about VR that would extend long beyond a rapid fire segment, but I think this is very much tied into the rest of VR culture and as a whole, where it's just very limited. There's a ceiling on that thing, and until it's cheaper, and until it's easier to develop for, and until it's not, you don't need a full size gym in order to play it. Like it's not gonna pick up. I think it's a cool little niche thing for now, and like I think there's really cool stuff that's happening within it, but I don't see it blowing up to the size of console gaming as it is right now.
I think PSVR is going to be looked back on in the same way, and don't get mad at me for this, that people look on the Wii U. in that it's very memorable and it had a decent amount of really interesting first, second, and third party games, plus like a good amount of indie games that really kept it afloat, but largely it didn't completely connect with its audience. That said, Nintendo Switch would not be where it is today without the Wii U being the sort of the blueprints for it. So I do think that Sony will not give up on VR. I think PSVR 2 will connect a lot more with people. Whether or not people who bought the first one will jump in, we'll see. But I think there's something there. And I think that a lot of the things that you mentioned, Cass, are absolutely true. I know that just for me, like just the idea of like kind of reaching into my entertainment center and untangling it and turning it on and putting it on my head, if even that was 5 seconds snappier, I would do it more often. I've talked about this before and people are like, it's not hard. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not wrong. But it's like, it is a tiny little hurdle. And each one of those adds up when you're just trying to come home after a long day and relax.
Frankly, VR for me at least still is like an attraction. Like I go to a show and I'm like, oh cool, I get to demo this game. I never want to play that at home, but it's really cool when I'm like out and just here's a cool thing for 20 minutes. And until they can kind of answer the question of why should I do this and like how is it giving me anything beyond just like here's a cool shooting gallery, but you're in it this time instead of just watching it.
I do think from the jump, the move controller thing was a bad half measure. I think right off the bat, not having a dedicated controller to this thing, like it is antithetical to the idea that this is a futuristic, revolutionary new way to play video games that is also married to controllers from 5 years ago.
That were tied to jumping on a trend.
You also look like
that
a weird
charge differently through a different input than other parts of your.
You look like a weird Tron cosplayer whenever you have the whole thing outfitted.
It looks like a zucchini with a clown's nose.
You compare the PSVR games to Wii games. And I wonder if maybe with PSVR kind of like launching with this sort of like this kind of lopsided rolling start and using sort of older hardware in there, I wonder if maybe Sony's taking sort of a cue from Nintendo and maybe launching with hardware that isn't fine-tuned. They already did that once. They put out the second one that was like, hey, sorry, you had to use the old-fashioned cable to charge the controllers, and it was the weird stuff like the headphone jack was in an odd place. Like they've already put out a second iteration of this thing, but I wonder if they're kind of like remember the first 3DS,
right?
That like god awful clamshell or not clamshell thing that was kind of lumpy.
Layer cake.
The layer cake, and then of course there was the fact that the Wii U was kind of like a really janky version of a Switch.
Yep.
I mean, I wonder if they're maybe taking a hint from that and being like, if you kind of take this leap of faith and you get, you put this thing out in the wild, you can actually kind of take some like really broad feedback about what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, totally.
And if it is something they are committed to going forward, why not have that as part of the PS5's launch and show that this is a core part of the PlayStation?
I just also think this
half measure now.
This extends way beyond PlayStation. Like I think this is just VR in general.
Oh yeah.
No, you're totally right.
Like I think it's just a much bigger question.
Yeah.
And if we sound like inherently negative here, I do want to clarify that I've had some of my favorite video game experiences on PSVR. I got too scared to finish Resident Evil 7 through it. That is one of the most incredible ways to experience a video game this generation. I will say stuff like Arkham VR was really brilliant. There was a lot of stuff like even like that Shark Tank demo thing. Super cool stuff to show to people at parties. A lot of those things didn't really maintain momentum or don't really last past a 45-minute experience. Hearing that the Resident Evil 2 remake has no VR stuff in it whatsoever is far more damning than anything we could say on this show, because I think that's a major third-party company not attaching themselves to what a few years ago would have seemed like the right idea to do. And so I hope there's a shelf life for a long time. I hope it gets sort of like a second win through a price drop or maybe a redesign. I think there's something there. I don't think it's there yet.
Put out a little breakout box that lets it hook up to PC. Like, let people screw around with it on PC.
And honestly, like, they don't really do phones anymore, but if they were to do something with mobile, that would make more sense to me.
Yeah. Mobile's been
Samsung and all
a
them have
big
been
place for VR.
Yeah,
It'll be very curious to see where it goes. Before we begin with a couple other questions, I've decided to add some danger into the mix.
Oh, boy.
Courtesy of Max.
This cursed box.
These are Russian roulette cookies. 2 of these cookies, I assume, 2 out of the 12 cookies have a skull in them, or they're very spicy, one or the other. We're going to test these out and find out as I open these up. I'm going to start with one of the other questions.
This was given to us by Beyond Superfans at PSX.
Yes, and we've been holding off for a special occasion. We figured a very slow news week in August.
Sarah. You were going to hurt us.
This is going to be interesting. Sorry, Cass. So yeah,
Take.
These apparently will all look the same. I imagine if one of them was bright red, that wouldn't really
I'll give it
help
away
at
a little
all.
bit.
But yeah,
Look at the little pop top.
There's a hole in
There's
the
a nice
front of these
little tab.
boxes.
That's
There's
scary.
also that.
Like there's a pet.
like there's a dog in there.
We will try to be mindful of our audio listeners and
Of
not
course.
eat directly into the microphone like we did like with the ham.
People love the ham episode.
It's the
people love
favorite
the ham
episode.
episode.
Okay.
Okay.
So these
Oh.
are all packaged individually.
That's so Japanese.
So please take one.
all right. Well, we're
And
taking
test
it
it
random.
out.
They all look the same as far as I can tell.
Before your
Makers.
first bite, apologies for all the crackling.
right.
Israel Beltran asks, what song would you like to play every time you walk in a room? Don't answer until you've taken a bite and let me know if
Okay,
you're
wait,
starting to die.
wait. All right, you ready? All right.
I'm already eating.
Damn it,
Brian already won.
All right, cheers.
let's go.
I'm doing good. I'm fine. I'm safe.
I'm so
This
afraid.
is not spicy.
I do not want this. Nothing bad so
What if
far.
we all dodged a bullet?
I've always wondered what it's like to eat chalk.
That's actually a pretty good cookie.
That's like a Sarah Dane.
It's not bad. I'm gonna
Lorna Doone?
Lorna Doone.
Sarah
I don't eat
Dane.
a lot of sweets these days, but I enjoy that one. Nobody.
That was
That's
okay.
it?
Nope.
Seriously?
All right, second round. Also, please answer the question as we go forward. What song
Oh.
would you like to have enter?
Les
as
Baxter's Peking Tiger. It's an old like weird.
Interesting.
That's my ringtone.
This one.
All
This one looks scarier.
Cheers, you funky donkeys.
Probably My Own Worst Enemy by Lit.
Ooh, that's a good choice. Nothing yet. Did anyone? Cass?
Nope.
No?
Oh, I got it.
Oh, you did?
I got it.
How is
good?
it? How bad is it?
It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I think being off sweets has kind of ruined you a
I think
little
I
bit.
got. Wait.
Ooh. That's settling in.
Did you
very
get it too,
warm.
Max?
Yes, I got it.
Ooh, that's a lick.
We found the two.
The rest.
Oh,
is
it's like a
safe.
little hug on the tongue. This sucks, Max, because you and I are like the most
Yeah.
desensitized. We put like habanero hell hot
Wait,
sauce
can I
on
take
everything.
Can I take
Yeah,
a bite of it?
totally.
Yeah, let me see what happens.
Wanna try a
Are
little
you
nibble of the
sensitive
funky
to
I'm
tiger?
okay, but
spicy
thank
stuff?
you.
Probably.
I'll let you
It's
enjoy
like
that.
spicy-ish.
It had only one skull, so oh yeah, nope, that immediately hit. Oh boy.
This actually says what is it? Oh, 2 out of 12 are the skull.
Yeah,
Got the winners of the cookie contest.
I enjoyed
Ooh,
that.
boy.
That's nice. That's pleasant.
Brian, what song would you want to play when you enter?
What was the question again? I was so focused on having cookies.
Fair enough. Israel Beltran asks, what song would you like to play every time you enter a room?
Ooh,
Oh boy, I just swallowed.
you all right?
I just swallowed.
Are you okay
a lot
over
of
there?
the spice. We're good.
Oh, he's not good at this.
maybe the boys are back in town, and it's just
boys.
me. And people are like, "Where are the rest of those boys?"
Mine is hands down by Dashboard and Confessional, not because I'm just starting to cry, but because I'm an emo boy. I'm doing all right.
Finish strong,
I'm going to
baby.
do more. Oh boy.
I ate my whole spicy cookie. I'm good to go over here.
Nick Zatarin asks, burrito or burger?
Zatarans.
Zatarans?
I had a burrito yesterday and a burrito the day before that. So probably a burger right now, honestly. You okay?
I'm doing all right. I've been watching a lot of like the hot wing shows where they eat the hot sauce
Yeah.
on YouTube. So this is just not.
Definitely gets you right in the throat. It's got a real
Oh
prickler
boy.
down there.
Yeah, I felt like I
loved it.
coughed it up.
Real spicy,
really did.
spiky sensation.
I will rate that 9 out of 10 skulls.
Cast burrito or burger?
They are both equally wonderful. I think right now in this moment, I could totally murder a avocado burger.
Oh, that is so California.
It sounds delicious.
I will say that a bad burrito is way worse than a bad burger.
That's
It is when
yeah.
you screw up a burrito, it is catastrophic.
Yeah.
Like it is just like this. It falls apart. Like even the worst burgers I've ever had, I've been like, okay, it's a bun, it's questionable meat, and it's like neon orange cheese that somehow clung to it. But bad burritos are pathetic.
Yeah.
The way they fall apart.
I live like a block from a taqueria that's so bad. I got a burrito there once, and I was like, "It's a super burrito. How bad can it be?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just put the things on it, whatever." It was mostly sour cream and pickled jalapenos,
Oh. Ugh.
like to the point
No.
where you bit into it, and it's just creamy and crunchy at the same time.
Oh no.
Like
Easy there, Guy Fieri.
really bad, creamy, crunchy, kind of chewy. But no, like just even out of sheer convenience, the fact that I haven't gone back there once is like
It's pretty damning.
pretty bad. I kind of want to go back and be like, listen, last time you did bad. Do it again, and don't do it so bad this
I
time.
have a tip for you. Don't get sour cream or pickled jalapenos, and maybe you'll be.
I get everything.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
say-
think that would include mostly sour cream and pickled jalapenos.
You say you
Gotta be
put it in
specific,
there
man.
until it looks like it wants to die. That's how I order burritos. Jonathan, I like how we've secretly like piloted a 5-minute food show. At the
Yeah,
end of
this
the
is
episode
great.
Beyond that.
Yeah, this is a great show. We have look forward to more of this because boy,
Cast
this is not
Beyond.
great.
I'm glad I got the spicy cookie. That was good.
Thank you all so much for those questions. They come from the Facebook Beyond group. That's facebook.com/groups/podcast Beyond. You can go there, join those wonderful people, and ask questions every week.
Are you all right from the spice?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Doing all right. Brian, where can people find you?
Me?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
sure
where are
don't
you
wanna
on
keep
Twitter?
talking?
No,
You're
I'm
doing
good. No, just where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Agent Bizzle. You can also check out my other shows here, NVC, those dastardly idiots over there who I will fight, as well as Up at Noon with Max, which we do every Thursday at noon Pacific time, 12 p.m. IGN.com.
Yeah, we
Number one
unbox
website.
like ice cream and play with Hot Wheels and do all sorts
Yeah.
of micro machines tricks.
It's
I don't
an
know.
idiot's program.
Yeah, coming up this week, we're interviewing the inventor of the tech deck.
What? That's not true at all.
No, it's not
Oh,
true.
that
at
would
all.
be
Lie to
great.
People got really excited about that.
Yeah, I was excited. Max, where can people find you other than Up at Noon?
Just on Max Scoville. You can also check out a feature and video I just did, which is called Death Stranding, 12 Things to Watch and Read While You're Waiting. And it's basically my old show Study Hall, but legally, no, it's not.
And Cassidy, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Cassidy Moser. That's 2 S's and 2 E's. It's spelled weird. Blame my mom. I am on the social team here. And you can go check out all the garbage that we make on there every day. All the fun memes and the good times and the laughs and the
Dank
clips.
Beams.
Yeah.
You can find me at Twitter at JM Dornbush, not at Twitter, on Twitter at JM Dornbush, and in the kitchen where I'm going to get milk to help my throat. That has been Beyond, episode 555. Don't forget, you can see Beyond every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on beyond.ign.com for a full 24 hours before it airs anywhere else, so be sure to come there every week. And with that, Beyond.
Wait,
Yeah.
you have more spicy challenges. You can send them to Beyond, care of IGN at 625 2nd Street, 4th floor, San Francisco, California, 94107.
Please actually do send them.
Chicago, Illinois.
Beyond.
Beyond.